Mediocre Disc Golf Podcast, an average podcast for the average disc golfer. As always, I'm Evan Amstutz, joined by someone who is willing and able to fill an empty seat on Team Innova, Dan Hesser. We're happy you could join us. Dan, how are you doing today?
Good. I'm good. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's something we've been talking about for a while. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing well, trying to stay warm. I've lived in Florida for over 20 years, and I can't remember the last time the feels like was 6, like it was this weekend.
Yeah, it was pretty cold. I feel like it was cold pretty much everywhere across the country, so
Yeah.
it was one of those things. But I saw you went out today. Was that your PR? 10 down?
No, I've shot 12 down before. But it's my best one in a while. Like
Yeah.
since I've switched my bag over to AGL and Gateway just entirely. And
Mm-hmm.
today was my best round out at Four Palms with that. So it's been fun
Cool.
working
Right.
in new stuff in the bag, learning new discs, kind of finally confident with some of them. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's strange. I went out to Four Palms on Monday and I played around, and it's interesting visiting a course after a set amount of time. The shots you were throwing aren't the same shots you're throwing now, if that makes sense, right? So like, let's say
yeah.
like as you progress in the game, um, like I was throwing putters and mids a lot more. Um, than I ever have out there. Like I was, normally cranking on fairways and wraiths and full speed drivers, right? And I was just
Hmm.
like I was throwing my pig so much. So my
Yeah.
pig in zone and stuff like that. It was crazy.
I I am curious, and I'm kind of going to be exploring this in the next couple of months because we have some bigger tournaments at smaller courses that I don't play a ton at
Yeah.
Springfield and Moccasin Creek, the St. John's fairgrounds.
Hmm.
And I don't think I've gained much distance. As a matter of fact, I think I might have lost a little bit of distance recently, but I'm still throwing mids and putters a lot more. And I think it's more of an understanding of discs and shot shapes and certain control aspects. So
100% control. 100% for me, it's control.
yeah. So instead of being like, oh, well, I need to get this disc, like we've talked about, I need to get this to the basket. It's, well, if I can get it to 30 within 30 feet, I'd rather throw the mid or the
100%.
putter.
Yeah.
So, well, speaking of someone who knows how to use a putter, let's bring in our guest. This week's episode is brought to you by The Disc Shop. One of the best days for a disc golfer is New Disc Day. With different runs of discs, the best way to get exactly what you want is by seeing what you're buying. The Disc Shop in Middleburg, Florida has the largest selection in store in Jacksonville. Want the latest from Discmania? The Disc Shop has you covered. Looking for starter kits to introduce your friends? Head on down to the Disc Shop. If you prefer the convenience of online shopping, head over to thediscshop.com for all your disc golf needs. Listeners get 10% off when using the code MDGPOD at checkout online or by mentioning the podcast while in store. Located halfway between Trinity and Ronnie Van Zant, the Disc Shop is the spot.
Yeah. So this week we have Isaac Robinson. Isaac, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well, doing well.
Yeah, maybe we should have listed like all your accolades and looked up like your third event or something and winner of whatever. No, it's good. You have a good holiday, man?
I did, yes. Good Christmas. Looking forward to a good New Year as well. So
Nice.
it's been a nice break this off season.
Nice. Are you back up in Georgia or
Yes, yep.
nice? You have a pretty big family, don't you? I think I remember seeing something about that.
Do yes. I'm back at my parents' house for the off season. So I have 7 younger siblings. One of them's married, so he's moved out. One of them's about to get married, and
Oh, cool.
so there's still 5 or 6 of them around the house.
Nice. We in Jacksonville, actually, I think they're from Georgia, but there's a family here that there's like, I don't know, 8 of them, and they come out to the disc golf course and they're all like kids, like
Yep.
for lack of a better term.
Yep.
And they're crushing, man. They're like throwing like 300 foot, at like 6, 7, 8 years old, and they're just throwing them out there. I'm like, I feel like that's kind of what your family was like back in
It
the
pretty
day.
much is, yeah. Anytime we go to the park, there's, we have a group of like 7 or 8 people, and kids as young as 6 or 7 are throwing, and it's just a good time.
Yeah. Is that kind of how you got into it as like a big family type, just something to do with the family, or?
Yeah, so my dad got into it in his early 20s. And so I've been out on the course since I was probably about five or six. Um, you know, walking, playing. Yeah, so basically, just our whole family's kind of into it. It's kind of been a core like staple in our family for as long as I could remember.
Nice. So I know your brother Ezra, and he plays pro. Did any of your other siblings compete at all, or are they all just pretty casual about it?
They're pretty casual right now. They've played a couple tournaments here and there. I got to caddy for my 10-year-old brother the other like about a month ago, so that
That's
was really
awesome.
fun. That was his first tournament.
That's
That's
super
awesome.
cool. I did the same thing with my nephew last a couple weekends ago. It was like the coolest experience, man.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
His motto was, "I'm always having more fun than everybody else because I get to throw more times." So it's
There
perfect.
you go.
Yeah, it's funny. Disc golf's one of those few things where the less you do it, the better you're doing.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
at least that's the goal. Play it as little as possible.
Yeah. So you had a pretty successful season this year. Um,
Rookie of the year,
yeah,
DGPT.
pretty successful. Um, can you talk a little bit about your season and some of the more memorable experiences that you had out there, maybe?
Yeah, definitely. Um, Going into the season, graduating college, and then a week later, driving out to Portland. Um, I think it was about a 39-hour drive from Georgia. So going into it, there wasn't a whole lot of expectations. It was very much like I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to see what happens. So Portland went way better than I ever thought. I got to play on lead card for I think 3 of the 4 rounds, and it was kind of like jumping off into the deep end. Just kind of you know getting lead card coverage, getting the crowds were amazing out there, and so getting the viewers and it was just like it really got me prepared for the rest of the season. I think got me used to playing in front of crowds, in front of cameras, with Macbeth and with the top guys in our sport.
Yeah.
And so it really just helped me get comfortable, and I think that really paved the way for the rest of the season and the success that I found this year.
Yeah. I think the first time I saw you on camera was like the Savannah Open or something like that, when
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
and your brother were battling it out. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yep.
actually got that coverage on in the other room because I'm playing that course blind. So
Oh,
trying to
nice, nice.
study up, watch you guys play it.
Yeah, it's a fun course.
Yeah.
Are you playing any of the local like A tiers around here? Or are you kind of saving it all for the tour next year?
Yeah. Actually, my next tournament will be the Savannah Open in January.
Oh,
Nice.
cool.
Hopefully, I think I'm on the wait list, so I'm hoping to get in. But yeah, for the most part, just kind of taking it easy the off season. Practicing, hanging out with some people that I didn't get to see all year. Um, yeah, I don't think haven't played a single tournament. But yeah, there's a Savannah Open, and then there's always one on Super Bowl Sunday that I play. So it's gonna be a fun one.
Like a local like league
Yeah,
type, or
just a little local one. It's actually a triples tournament. So usually my brother, myself, and Alden usually partner up and we'll play. So it's always a good time.
pretty
Yeah,
stacked card.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. I think we won it. We won it last year, but the year before we lost. So
Oh, wow. I mean,
yeah,
triples, I guess it's yeah, you just got to fire your birdie out pretty much, I guess.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Gannon was telling us with his triples tournament. He had to shoot like 19 down. His team had
Hmm.
to shoot 19 down or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how good you are if everybody's got 3 shots. usually they
Yeah.
can make something work.
Hmm.
19 down through 18. That's ridiculous. Yeah, that's
More than
crazy.
perfect.
Well, so what is you said you're just kind of like hanging, relaxing a little bit, meeting up with friends and stuff like that. Interested in when you're saying you're practicing for the off season, what things are you practicing? What things are you trying to hone in on?
Yeah, so my goal for the off season, kind of looking at my year and figuring out where my weak spots were, it was definitely distance, and a forehand, which is kind of obvious. Um, and so going into the off season, I'm still practicing, my normal practice routine, but then also trying to work on my distance and get that extra 30 to 50 feet. That would be, huge, going into especially the first couple tournaments out in Arizona
Yeah.
and Las Vegas. Um, and then trying to work on the forehand and trying to get it to where I'm comfortable, off the tee, and have a little more distance on the forehand as well. Um,
Do you throw? I don't think I've ever seen you throw a forehand average at all ever. Do you actually throw a forehand or?
so I can, in a pinch, but I don't rely on it more than like 200, 250.
Oh, okay.
Um, and for some reason, I'm just really not comfortable on the tee throwing a forehand. I don't know if it's a mental thing or what, but usually if I'm in the woods, I can make it work.
Yeah,
Off the fairway or
like a
you know,
scramble shot type situation.
exactly. But off the tee, it's disastrous. So
That's
working on
crazy to me because I mean, you took down Idlewild, and I look at a lot of the gaps for Idlewild. I'm like, I want to be looking at my target the entire time. I can't imagine throwing anything but a forehand on some of those shots. So it's really impressive that you're able to attack it
Oh,
predominantly
thank you.
backhand.
Yeah, and that's the turnover putters definitely played a lot into that tournament.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what discs are you throwing, or when you're learning how to throw a forehand? Can you kind of talk about that process? Because I'm sure there's tons of people out there that are kind of going through that same struggle, right, of trying to figure that out. Are you starting with like understable discs and different things like that, or are you just cranking on an overstable disc and seeing how far you can get it out?
Yeah. So to learn like the kind of the control and the touch of a forehand, because it's a lot more touchy than a backhand.
Hmm.
Um, Trying to use straight to understable discs to learn the control, and kind of learn the flight, and where you practice all sorts of release angles, with understable or straight discs. So kind of starting with those and then getting the form down and then transferring that to the overstable discs like the A2 and the FX2. Um, you know, from the understable ones I'd be throwing would be like the F3 or the M3 or even like the M4. But then transitioning that into the more overstable stuff, so the overstable drivers.
You're learning to throw mids on forehand.
Yeah, so a lot of I find myself in this position a lot is where I need like a just something that holds the line the whole way.
Yeah.
And I use my M3 a good bit for those turnover forehands.
Wow. I throw a ton of forehands. Like that's kind of my backhand's really what needs the most help. So I'm kind
Which
of in
is
the
really
opposite
funny
boat.
because all we get videos of for Hesser is him throwing a backhand.
Yeah, and comments of your form sucks, and I'm like, yeah, it checks out. Um, but I mids to me are so strange to throw on forehand. I don't know why. Like I would much rather forehand to like an understable putter and let it just kind of glide than throw a mid. I don't know why that is.
Interesting. Yeah, I've tried forehanding putters and it's really ugly.
Is it?
Yeah,
Is it?
usually they end up turning over real hard and just hitting the ground. So
I think isn't the A3 like an overstable putter?
yes, yeah, it's like an overstable approach.
Yeah, that's what most of my friends who forehand prodigy. That's what they throw a
Yes,
lot of those. A
that's a
lot.
that's a good one. That's one of my favorites for the forehand.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So you kind of got a chance. I know you came up here to Jacksonville and you played in the New World
Mhm.
Open. Did you get a chance to check out any of the courses around here at all? Or I know when you go into a town and you're preparing for a tournament, you pretty much just want to play that course. But
Yeah. For the most part, just at that course, it was unfortunate timing because of the hurricane down there
Oh
was
gosh,
kind of the
yeah.
same. So I was there a couple days early, but wasn't able to play because the wind and the rain were terrible.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I just played around on the New World complex. So played a couple holes of the other courses that we didn't play for the tournament, and it was really fun.
Did you get to play the green course, the dunes?
Yes, played a couple holes on that one. That was fun.
Yeah,
I like
it's a
the
fun
one
little
going
track.
with like the half pipe of the sand dune going down towards
Oh
the
yeah.
water.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's
I love that one.
17. Yeah,
17. Yeah,
Yes.
with the triple Mando with the over the top or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. You throw a putter just straight right at it or
Hmm. Yep.
let it glide down there? Yeah,
Yep.
for
Just
sure.
go all the way.
That's such a cool it's such a picturesque hole with the lake right behind it and everything like that. But yeah, it's gorgeous.
so what are your how do you go into an off season with such a successful year? Like, do you set goals for the next year? Are you playing to, I guess, compete against your previous results, or what are you trying to do next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I don't know if I figured that out yet. Um,
Mhm.
I think I just want to, obviously striving to be at the top, in the top 10 every time. Um, I think that's everyone's goal. um, but I definitely see that as an attainable one for myself. I think that with the practice that I'm putting in the off season, the putting and the driving and the trying to get that extra distance. Um, yeah, I think that my goal next year is going to be just play as well as I can, and just kind of see where that takes me. And hopefully that's the top 10, top 5 consistently. Um, yeah,
I think your goal should be cash in every event because the only one you missed was pro mixed doubles.
that's true. That was I don't know what was up with that. I played terrible.
I mean, you didn't miss out on much. I just looked at the winnings. Cash was $25 and winning
It's the title,
Calvin and
man. That's
Macy
it's
won 180.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it's interesting. Like AMs go into a lot of tournaments, and myself being an AM as well, or go into a year trying to shoot like, oh, I want to win this tournament. I want to shoot this rating. And it's interesting hearing a difference in the pro side, especially as the pro side gets more and more competitive of cashing is some people's goal, getting top tens. Like it's unless you're one of the really, really top guys saying like, oh, I want to win 5 events this year
Mhm.
isn't really on a lot of people's radar.
Yep, exactly. The competition level is so high. I mean, you saw people winning this year, um, that have never, you know, I guess I'm included in that, but like, Robert Burridge taking Simon Lizotte to the line, Gannon Burr kind of coming out of nowhere, and just the amount of people that have proven they have the what it takes to win and to be at the top level. It's so much more than just Paul, Ricky, Calvin, like it was 5 or 6 years ago.
yeah, it's great for the sport, honestly. So it's definitely something that's a great thing. So with the growth of the sport and everything.
Definitely.
Kind of want to talk about. I'm sure you saw the announcement of where Worlds is going to be in the next couple of years and everything like that.
Yeah.
Um, what's your thoughts on the new London track and I think the other one's like a temp golf course track or
Yeah,
something like
it's
that.
the Ivy course. They're going to be putting it in on a golf course.
And that's in Virginia, right?
Yes, Lynchburg.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I haven't played in Virginia at all.
Hmm.
So I don't really know what to expect. I know people were really excited about it. Um, so that's pretty cool. And I'm excited for 2023 Worlds up at Smuggler's Notch. I think that's going to be
Heck
great.
yeah, yeah.
Super excited to play there. Um, but yeah, Lynchburg. Like I said, I haven't played in Virginia, so I don't know exactly what to expect. Um, but I know it's gonna be great.
Are you
Yeah,
excited? Go ahead.
I think a lot of the excitement from the general public is around the fact that people know that course so well through Foundation and through Paul, because it's a Paul Macbeth design course. And that Ivy course, I was listening to their podcast this morning, the Foundation podcast. I guess it's on a very undulated ball golf course, so it's not going to be like we're out at Emporia again.
Nice.
So I think that it's a little bit of a fan service, for lack of a better term. It was why people
Okay.
are really excited.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coverage. People know the holes very, very well, even though it's never hosted a Pro Tour event.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm terrible at actually watching disc golf videos. So I can't say I've seen the course. But now I'm gonna go look it over, go watch some of that coverage.
You can watch Gavin Babcock on lead card.
Hey,
Go out there and throw.
heck yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah. Or you can watch the Foundation guys find the worst places possible to be on that course
Oh, that sounds very entertaining.
when they go out there with just putters or something dumb.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
So talking about, because I think overall, like a lot of the coverage for Worlds this year was that they wanted a little bit more woods golf involved in it instead of just being open. Um, so talking about your game a little bit, do you think the Smuggler's Notch, the New London track, which are very heavily wooded, I kind of feel like that's going to play a little bit more into your game than the wide open shots.
Definitely, I completely agree. Um, Playing the Green Mountain Championships this year, that was my first time playing those courses in a competitive round, and everything just felt so good. Those courses up there, I think, are my favorite to play in the entire U.S. Those are my top two favorite courses. So yeah, I'm excited to play them. I think I placed second or tied for second up there this year. So going in with high hopes and excitement into 2023 Worlds. I think the same thing goes for everyone, but when there's woods instead of just like these long holes like we saw out in Emporia, it really evens the playing field a lot, and it benefits the people who are accurate and who can't throw very far. So I fall into that category along with many other people.
You can still put a move on a disc. I mean, what's your range is like? It's pushing 6, isn't it?
It's like 450 to 500.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
For some reason you were throwing farther.
No, I wish.
Yeah, that's still pretty impressive, though. I mean, 450, 500, if it's controlled and accurate, I mean, that does great things, you know.
It does, yeah, and it's worked out so far. Just taking that extra, getting that 550 range would be amazing. But
Yeah.
But it also goes to show our listeners that distance isn't everything, because if you're able to win Idlewild with 450, 500-foot distance.
yeah, no, it's not everything, but it definitely helps.
Oh yeah.
So, kind of talking about that, when you're trying to increase your distance, are you looking at your form? Are you looking at obviously different types of discs or stabilities of discs, or like how are you trying to reach the next level?
Yeah, so a lot of it would be I'm working out on a regular basis, trying to build some muscle and some flexibility, um, and just throwing into a net, trying to get the form down, watching some YouTube videos, um, and just trying to learn, slow mowing everyone's form. Gannon specifically, his form is almost perfect in my opinion. So just watching him, watching Kyle Klein, just trying to analyze what they're doing, and then trying to replicate that through practice and throwing into a net. Yeah, I'm just trying to get that down. Repetition and just lots of practice.
Yeah, for sure. It's always interesting, 'cause when you talk about, it's just the smallest minute details and the smallest shifts and things like that have so much to do with it. And unless you are doing that, filming yourself and slowing it down and doing it again and again and again, then it kind of gets tiresome, but it definitely is required, right?
Yes, definitely. It's kind of a lot of work, but it's definitely, if it pays off, it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what drills are you doing throwing into a net or doing field work? Because I definitely struggle to convince myself to go out and throw into a field instead of going and just I'm going to play around and try this, and then I end up getting frustrated because I've messed up my mechanics trying to do something while playing.
Yeah. Um, so I have a net in my backyard. So, just taking you know, 40 discs and just throwing them, 2 or 3 times, each. And so getting like 100 shots in, if not a little bit more every day. Just getting that repetition. And during field work, I'll set up like I'll aim for a specific spot and I'll throw, my whole bag and try to hit that spot. So that builds the accuracy. And I just slowly move the spot back and then try to hit it from further and further away, just over and over and over again. So I'm throwing, anywhere from, because if you go and play around, you'll shoot, you'll throw maybe, depending on the course, 50 to 60 shots in a round. But if you go to the field and practice for even 45 minutes, you can get 100, 150 shots in, and then actually build productive practice instead of just playing around and shooting, good or bad, or depending on, so it's much more effective to practice in a field, if you want to get better and yeah.
So uh, when I go out to the field, I do a similar thing, right? So I just put like I put my bag out somewhere and just try to hit my bag, right?
Yep.
But I always I have a hard time like visualizing the shot shaping,
Hmm.
that because it's just a wide open field and like I imagine a tree or something and I try to like
Yeah.
shape a shot around it. How do you do that besides just going to like a hole that has a tree and throwing like because sometimes I'll do that, right? We'll just go to a hole and I empty my bag trying to throw different types of shots to make the same result, right?
Hmm.
But like how do you do that in an open field?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have the same problem where I just have to imagine, shaping the line. But what I'll do is I'll pick a spot that I'm aiming at. So if my bag is like in the middle of the field and I want to throw a hyzer, I'll aim at something to the right and I'll just try to hit that line and that angle, and then just let the disc do the work and fade back to center. And the same thing kind of goes for the anhyzer, where I'll aim at something to the left and just force the disc over or let the disc do the work, to come make that shot shape back to the middle. Um, but yeah, there's I just kind of aim for something in the distance and then just try to hit that with the shot and let the disc do the work. So yeah, there's a lot of imagination.
For sure.
Is that your approach on the course too, of picking a spot to throw to and then just letting the disc hyzer or go straight or whatever?
Yes. Yeah, I think it was Phil Arthur, told me that a while ago. Um, I went to one of his clinics, and that was something that really stuck with me, and so that's something I've tried to do ever since.
Yeah, I that's something Dan and I have talked about recently on the podcast is the difference between rec, intermediate, advanced, and pro players. And some of it, a lot of it has to do with not necessarily, definitely execution, but not all of it is execution. A lot of it is disc choice and saying, instead of throwing my bag is an example, instead of throwing a Shrike on Anheuser, I'm going to throw this Nuke SS and throw it flat and let the disc turn for me.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
So it's good to know that Phil Arthur's saying the same thing. I'm not going too far down the wrong path.
Yes. Exactly.
Well, that wraps up part one of our interview with Isaac Robinson. You can find Isaac on Instagram at Isaac WRDG _19. Dan at dhesser, and me at Evan Amstutz DG. Remember to follow the pod on Instagram at Mediocre Disc Golf Pod and on Twitter at Mediocre DG Pod. If you'd like to support us, buy our shirts on mythicdiscgolf.com and listen to us every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. If you enjoyed the show, leave us 5 stars in a review, and if you didn't, still give us 5 stars and tell us why. We know we aren't perfect because we are mediocre.